Is Chicago next? Some say and most believe that Chicago should have been first in terms of federalizing the policing powers. Now, President Trump has made the comment that he may very well federalize the policing powers in the city of Chicago for most recently the crime that has just skyrocketed out there. However, what is skyrocketing crime in Chicago? The crime has always been going on. Drive-by shootings, gangs, murders over the weekends, throughout the week. So many people losing their lives in the city of Chicago for so many years. However, now we happen to have a president that is just willing to do something about it for the American people in the city of Chicago and put a stop to all the violence and the crime by sending in the National Guard and militarizing and federalizing policing powers in the city of Chicago. It's about damn time, and I hope to God that this actually happens to get the crime under control and to stop all the murders and the violence by hands of kids, young folks doing most of the murders. Do you believe Chicago should be the next on the list to have its policing duties federalized by President Trump? Or do you believe crime should just remain the same in Chicago and it ain't that bad anyway because you ain't there and experiencing it?
So Donald Trump is currently at a press conference where they're announcing the draw for the World Cup, and during a question and answer time, he has just said, now that we've got DC under wraps, it's now time to go after Chicago. So we can only assume, folks, that the National Guard are going to be deployed in Chicago next.
Got some breaking news from Kenkel's McTaco Tits himself. Take a look.
And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York. We're going to help with, and I think a lot of these people that you see on television, they're including the people in this audience. They'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, "Thank God he's here," because half of them got mugged, and they don't want to get mugged again. But they work for they work for stupid people that are radical left, and they're made to do things and say things that they don't want to be saying. But the people right here are all happy because you're not going to be mugged in Washington, D.C. anymore.
Have it straight from the guy that's probably on the Epstein list himself, saying Chicago is next. I am walking down the streets of Chicago. It feels pretty safe to me. But yeah, we told you it was going to come. We told you it was going to keep happening. This dementia-riddled felon is just going to start taking over every major city because he is a psychopath, authoritarian dictator.
Young people.
And people are deciding it happened. Fuck.
Chicago, you've been put on the clock and on notice. President Trump says that you are next. Once D.C. is cleaned up, he is coming to Chicago, Illinois, and he's going to your city. We're going to clean up Chicago, and we're going to make that city safe again. One of the most dangerous cities, not only in America, but in the world. And America isn't standing for it anymore. How can you not love President Trump? He is the most transparent president we have ever had in our nation's history. This guy is out in front of the cameras 10 times a day. I don't think he sleeps. This guy goes around the world 3 times in 1 week and then still comes back and he puts on pressers from the Oval Office talking about the FIFA World Cup in 2026.
It's another new day. We're talking about Trump and National Guards being sent to residential areas, and it has sparked a mixed reaction. So President Trump just had a presser during a World Cup event, and you'd think this event would be primarily or solely a sports event, but he took that opportunity to talk about the work that has been done in Washington DC. Even the previous night, he himself had gone to patrol Washington DC together with the National Guard. He feels like the work he has done there is commendable according to him. But critics say that, of course, he's been overstepping, overreaching, and he has been disregarding civil rights in one way or the other. But the MAGA supporters feel like he's doing the right thing and he's cleaning up the streets off from crime and restoring law and order. And now that Trump is almost satisfied with the work in Washington DC, he he wants now to go to other states like Chicago. This is gonna be a big move because, you know, Chicago, the way it is, critics, like you've had some speakers saying over there, they feel like Chicago is already safe, and it seems like maybe Trump is just targeting states that are predominantly black and occupied by black people, and they feel like crime has dropped 30%, robberies have dropped like 35%. Like, what is the need of Donald Trump sending National Guards or federalizing the police department in order to deal with such occurrences? But others do feel like he's in the right step and is clearing off the street and is gonna make the streets safer. So it's a two-way. The progressives feel like this is not a good move, and the people on the conservative side feel like Trump is doing the right thing, what they voted him for. But hey, what are the people from Chicago actually saying? That is what we're gonna touch in this video today. And also, it's important to note that in Chicago, especially Illinois, it's not gonna be the same as Washington DC, and it's gonna be a difficult move. It's gonna be interesting to see how he's gonna maneuver this. As a president, I know he has some powers, but there's some times where federal government clashes with the state governments. Sometimes one ends up winning despite the other one being greater.
We have some big news right now. Donald Trump has just confirmed that he will likely send the National Guard or do something to Chicago next, and then New York afterwards. He was speaking from the Oval Office today during a press conference about the World Cup. The United States hosting the World Cup in 2026. And he was asked, or talking about DC, the National Guard, and how he thinks he's cleaning up the city. And he says, I think Chicago will be next, and then we will help with New York. After we do this, we will go to another location and make it safe too. That will probably be our next one related to Chicago. They are screaming for us to come. And he specifically said, this is a direct quote from Donald Trump, quote, African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago, please. That is a direct quote from Donald Trump. That is not me. That is the President of the United States. So spread the word.
National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police, and we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do if we have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this.
There it is, you guys. Donald Trump ended up making the announcement. He said as soon as they are done with Washington, D.C. and making Washington, D.C. safe again, they are going to be mobilizing the United States military and marching them right into Chicago. They said as of right now, they're just going to use the National Guard because you know what? Chicago, easy. Easy right there. They're going to handle that so easy as compared to Washington, D.C. So they said they're going to do the exact same thing, though. They're going to utilize the National Guard. They are going to be patrolling the streets armed with their weapons. They are going to go house to house, door to door, making sure that the people, the residents of Chicago know Donald Trump's in town and he's in charge. He's running the show. Chicago, I just got to know. You ready?
Trump is now threatening Chicago as the next city on his list for the federal takeover. I was talking about how this was just a test run in Washington, D.C., just a test trial to see how this would work. And now he has threatened Chicago, amongst other cities, to be next on the list as a place to be cleaned up from crime, a federal takeover. Their mayors are incompetent. Let me show you this clip. This just happened. They were talking about the FIFA World Cup, talking about crime in Washington, D.C. And he was talking about how they did such a good job cleaning up Washington, D.C., that they were going to be going to other cities next to do the same thing.
And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one.
So yeah, Trump had started this off earlier talking about how Washington, D.C. had been cleaned up. The National Guard had done such a great job. They were doing such a wonderful job. Restaurants were booming. The homicide rate was down to 0 a day. Crime had been erased essentially. And he said like the 13% that they were talking about, he didn't know what that was at. It was 0%. There's no crime left. And, you know, J.D. Vance echoed the same thing. He had people echoing the same stuff, propagandizing this. And then he said, yeah, we're going to go into Chicago. We're going to clean it up too. Because this works so well, we're going to go in these other places and clean them up. And he mentioned earlier before he said Chicago, that if they had to call in the Marines or any other military, that he wouldn't mind to do that. But didn't need it in Washington, D.C. So now they're going to go into places like Chicago. And he said some other cities here while he was talking to. Let me show you.
Happens. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with. And I think really, I think a lot of.
So yeah, you heard that right. He said they're going to go help Chicago, and then they're going to go help New York, and I think J.D. Vance even mentioned Los Angeles. So they have a list of cities that they want to do this. This Washington, D.C. thing was a test trial. They see now that they can do this. They can bring in the National Guard. They can bring in National Guard from other states. There are governors willing to help them. And so now they're talking about validating this with propaganda and doing it in other cities. And
the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know. And
so yeah, it's the same authoritarian, propaganda of, oh, please come liberate us, come liberate us, come bring peace to our cities as well. And just saying that everyone wants this, and people that don't want this are crazy, and they're a small minority, but everyone wants this to happen. They want these cops to come in here, and they J.D. Vance and him talk about how this is what people need for a safer city, is to allow us to come in here and clean up the bad mayors and the bad police and really, stamp down these criminals. So they're just saying whatever they have to validate people giving up their rights, their freedoms, their privacy, giving up their cities, and allowing National Guard and soldiers to come in there and federally take over these major cities. Again, Chicago, New York, L.A. This isn't even, I'm not making these words up. This was just said by him today in this press conference. So it's a very scary thing. I made a video earlier in the week talking about this right here, how he was testing to see which governors would be on his side, who was loyal to him, right? And he got people, Ohio, West Virginia, South Carolina, Louisiana, Mississippi, so on and so forth, right? He had enough people that were willing to send him National Guard to help with this federal takeover. Again, I don't think Washington, D.C. was the main point. It wasn't about actually cracking down on crime or anything. It was just a test trial to see if he could get in there and do it, right? Because the National Guard haven't really been doing anything there. They've just been taking pictures and hanging out. It wasn't about the actual crime. And it's still not really about the actual crime in these cities that he's going to. This isn't a, clean up the crime for the good of the people. This is pretend to clean up the crime to oppress and take over the people and remove their rights and their liberties and their freedom of, due rights and things like that. Give yourself the opportunity to sweep people off the streets. It's sort of like El Salvador, right? Sell your freedoms, your liberty, and your privacy for this idea of a police state, a big daddy protector who at the same time could at any point take you off the streets and without any due process or rights or freedom. You know what I mean? You're sort of giving up your freedom of protection, of rights, of laws. You're giving all this stuff up and your communities to, for this idea, this fake idea of a safety net, of a blanket that's protecting you. When in reality, they just want to control you and oppress you. So just want to shout that out. He has now threatened that he's going to go into these other cities and do the same exact thing that he's done in Washington, D.C. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Have a good one.
Looks like Chicago's the next on the list for Trump to federalize and bring in the National Guard to clean up that Democrat-run city. Another shithole Democrat-run city needs President Trump's help to be cleaned up. And the people that are living there, especially the black community, and I've seen like 50 to 100 videos on this app alone, that they would like their cities cleaned up, like DC has been cleaned up, and are asking for Trump's help. So he is sending in the National Guard after DC's done to clean up Chicago. And I think after that, New York should be next. And all the Democrat-run shithole cities that have let illegals run rampant, have let homeless run rampant, have let law and order go by the wayside, because criminals seems to just get out as soon as they're arrested. So you know what? It's time to clean up these cities, and I can't wait to see how many more will be on the list.
A lot to debunk over there, and so many speakers have spoken their thoughts, and majority of them, especially from the MAGA side. That is just a quick disclaimer in case you're watching and you're wondering why is it that so many people are talking ill about Chicago residents, and also people from the Democrat side. It's just that most of the people who were quick to react to that news from MAGA, or rather people from Chicago, actually saying I've come across the first speaker actually wanted Trump to make the move, but others, for the TikToks that I've been watching even right now, they're wondering like, what is the need of having military boots on the ground when we should have things like gun reforms, housing, education, social amenities that would actually tend to reduce crime rather than putting military and putting force on the ground. To them, it's kind of like Trump is showing media theatrics rather than solving a state problem. And to them, they feel like crime is actually reducing in Chicago right now. Others, especially in the hood areas, do actually appreciate military coming in. While these two parts clash, we might want to look at the history of Chicago as a whole. It's not like that Chicago has areas that are very beautiful and very safe, especially those skyscrapers we usually see in movies. I remember looking at a certain picture of Chicago and I was really moved by it, and it was back then when I was watching Prison Break, like the skyscrapers and the waters. It was just beautiful, amazing to look at the city like that. It's rare to see crimes like the ones being described, but I know deep in the hood there is where the problem is. Right now we already know the tension between the hood brothers and the people in the uniform. Imagine now bringing more reinforcement into the area. You know, when someone has already grown to 18 years and they're categorized as adult, but the parent or the guardian is micromanaging them, I think that is how the hood is gonna feel. But hey, if they're committing crimes, then they're gonna face it hard with the National Guards. There needs to be a careful approach when federalizing the police or sending the military troops to the ground. Some speakers have spoken about how the event was supposed to be a FIFA World Cup event and Trump introducing politics into it. Do I think that is kind of weird? Of course, yes. That was a sporting event, as I mentioned before. It was solely supposed to be sports and encouraging sports in the United States of America. But hey, this is a huge event that is coming into an unfootballing country, and even the president himself doesn't recognize the magnitude of the event. Now, instead of praising or instead of showing the good side of America, he already shows that this city or these states are unsafe. So if people are coming to attend matches and they already know that your country is not safe, I mean, they would just have a second thought, and we're gonna have an awful attendance like we saw right in the FIFA Club World Cup. You remember, FIFA World Cup is different than FIFA World Cup because this is clubs and these are national teams, and national teams tend to attract so many fans in attendance. I don't know if it's gonna improve, and I don't know if the visa thing has improved because so many people in many countries are being denied US visas. I don't know if it's gonna change in 2026. This immigration laws, immigration policies, lawlessness, and also the way Trump is dealing with it is controversial. There's a lot of uncertainty revolving around the event. I do feel like this whole move is just politicized theatrics, and it's just like a 20% for the good of the people, but in reality he just wants to show that, hey, look at me, you remember me for doing this. At the end of the day, he's the president, he can do whatever he wants to do. You've listened to previous opinions in the discussions, and you've also listened to my 2 cents. Now I leave this forum to you guys to share your thoughts in the comment section down there below. Your opinions would be really insightful and really engaging. Don't be shy to comment. Also, don't forget to go and check the original creators. The usernames have been embedded in the stitch videos as always. Go on to their TikToks, follow, like their videos. For this channel, make sure you smash the thumbs up button, consider subscribing, turn on post notifications so that you may not miss my next upload. And with that, guys, let me meet you in the next one. Peace out.